Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Monday edition of Locked On Flames. Today we are doing the official season primer with Nick Zararis of Liberty Blue podcast, and let's jump right into it.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Locked On Flames. Today I am joined with Nick Zararis, and make sure that you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts. And Nick, how are you today?
I'm very glad hockey starts tomorrow because the Mets lost yesterday, and baseball doesn't exist anymore. So we've officially moved on to hockey season, as Coach Belichick said. We're on to hockey season.
Presents Stream Home Makeover.
Okay, thank you, Daily Face-Off, for a random ad.
Daily Face-Off. The pop-ups on Daily Face-Off kill me. Every time I'm just trying to get something quick to reference while I'm recording an episode, the pop-up starts playing, and yeah.
Yep. I rarely ever use them, but thanks, Daily Face-Off. I will be sure to throw an ad blocker on. But, I think we need to recap the off-season because it was a lot in a short period of time. And now the season starts on Wednesday for the Flames. And it started back in July when we heard rumors of Gaudreau being offered basically the entire city of Calgary for the next 8 years. And everybody was just kind of on edge. Is he going to take it? Is he going to take the deal? Is he going to sign long-term? What's the plan here? And then it came down to the 11th hour and he was gone. What was your initial reaction and just kind of feelings around that?
I'm never going to begrudge a player for getting a bag. I'm always on the side of get as much money as you can from whoever's willing to give it to you. If you want to live in a different location, by all means, go where you want to go, where you think you're going to have the best opportunity to pursue your career in the way you want to do it. I was a little surprised he picked Columbus of any team because they're not particularly close to contending. And he's kind of at the end of his prime in his late 20s, early 30s, where in the next couple of years, he'll probably start to decline slightly in terms of his production. By the time Columbus is ready to be a serious playoff team, he'll probably be in his early or mid-30s. So a little surprising there. But in terms of just movement, I think we're seeing players feeling a little more emboldened to take their careers into their own hands, which is a good thing for the league. The more the players feel agency over the direction of their careers, the better for the game, because for too long, these guys have felt like one guy on a group of 18. And while that is true, they are just one guy on a team. Johnny Gaudreau's impact on the Calgary Flames is a little bit different than Milan Lucic's impact on the Calgary Flames. So let's be realistic here. We're not everybody is the same part of a 1 of 18.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. And I see, any player who's willing to kind of go against the grain like that, as like you said, is an empowering thing, because not only does it help the player, it helps kind of everyone else who might be in a similar situation. And I think it kind of moves the sport forward.
Yeah, absolutely. It sets a precedent. It allows players to feel like we're a couple of years away. I think Austin Matthews is an unrestricted free agent 3 years from now. That'll be the next big one. Yeah. McDavid is 4 or 5 years away. Mitch Marner, I think, is 3 or 4 years away. If these guys feel like, hey, I can go anywhere I want and a team is going to bend over backwards to make the team around me better, like what Matthew Tkachuk did, where he said, I want to go here. And then the Panthers said, all right, we'll move heaven and earth to get you here. And we think we can do something with you. That's better for everybody, because if teams are being more aggressive, that means more teams are going to be viable to be in the playoffs. That means more fan bases are able to be invested in their teams. It's better for the league when there's movement. I mean, the NBA is at this point now where basically you can have a contract 3-4 years left on it and you can go wherever you want, because in the NBA, the players hold the power. We're getting there in the NHL. Matthew Tkachuk, the first real restricted free agent we've seen coming out of that entry-level contract and saying, okay, I want to leave. And that's bucking a trend. We haven't really seen that in the NHL. So that is a watershed moment in player empowerment, which is a good thing for the NHL. The players are the focus. It's not the team. As much as the old heads want it to be about the team, it's about the players. It's about the players.
Right, because without the players, you don't have a team.
Exactly.
Without teams, you don't have a league.
Yes.
So, and then, you brought up Matthew Tkachuk, and I think that this trade was, it was obviously expected, but I remember seeing the return and thinking the Flames really did just get a lot better than they were a week ago when we were starting the ship for raising the sail for the Tank for Bedard train. And I'm happy for Matthew Tkachuk, but I'm more excited for the Flames return on that end because, you are replacing Johnny Gaudreau with Jonathan Huberdeau, who had the same amount of points as each other last year. You're only strengthening the D core with Mackenzie Weegar. And then you have a prospect. I don't know. I feel like it was okay to be happy again. It was okay to be excited for Flames hockey.
I think the Flames are going to be a very interesting case study. And if you want high-end talent versus a quality of talent, because the Flames are a deeper lineup now, I would say, with having that extra cap space to go and get Kadri in there as well. So you have Kadri, you have Weegar, you have Huberdeau. Your roster is deeper. Not necessarily as high ends because Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk are probably two of the 20 best players in the entire league, but you've got more talent to put throughout your lineup, and then you can slide people who are higher up in your lineup last year further down, deepen your roster all the way around. So it's a debate. This is a real conversation we have as content people is, would you rather have 2 high-end guys or 4 pretty good guys? It really depends. We've seen in the playoffs teams that have more high-end talent typically prevail in matchups where it's high-end talent on high-end talent. But when you get into those later playoff series where everybody has high-end talent, that depth usually makes the difference. Yeah. I've been a big proponent of the way the Flames have constructed this roster. I think they're going to end up better off in this trade than Florida because they're going to have a better chance of winning a Stanley Cup than Florida because the path in the West is just easier than it is in the East, to be honest with you. And Florida still has a lot of question marks. So as bad as it could have gone for Calgary this offseason, the fact that they're more or less in the same spot last year where they're going to be expected to win this division again and go deep in the playoffs, that's pretty good considering you just lost 2 of the 20 best players in the sport.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It was kind of shocking to just watch this team, lose those 2 top end. We had this conversation last season, but two of the top 3 U.S.-born players in the league depart from your team and then bring in players that are still, you're still a contender. And I think that's the most important thing to take away from here. We don't need to, hold grudges against players for leaving and only writing a Player Tribune article. I don't know what you want from them. Matthew Tkachuk didn't personally send Jonathan Huberdeau and Weegar over to Calgary. But, I think we have to move on from that, but also be able to look back at this trade and this offseason in 2 or 3 years and say, hey, did the window stay open? Did we lengthen it? We'll reevaluate it. And I think that that's something that, we just have to live in the moment and appreciate it because, like you said, with depth teams, they're the ones that are going on and having deeper playoff runs. Look at Colorado. What did they just win? The Stanley Cup. And they still are a very deep team. So we will have to see what they have, what the West has in store for the Flames. But before we move on and talk about Valimaki and Daryl Sutter, I do have a quick break to tell you about our latest partner that has a product that I use every day. And I started taking AG1 because I wanted to put control back into my immune system and my health. And AG1 is a delicious product. It is just 1 scoop of product in my water every morning. It is 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole foods, superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. I love it because it helps me focus, it helps me stay healthy, and I don't age. It'll help. It has those anti-aging properties with it. And it is lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It has less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, none of those nasty chemicals or anything. And it tastes just like a tropical flavored water, which is very nice, very enjoyable. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Head on over to athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Over the weekend, the Flames were still making some moves. They signed Daryl Sutter to a 2-year contract extension. Fantastic. Obviously, love to see that. And then they were getting their roster ready for opening night and tonight's deadline. They placed Valimaki on waivers, and Arizona claimed him. Do you have any thoughts on either of those?
Just a missed opportunity. I mean, that's the peril of being a good team. You're not inclined to give your younger guys an opportunity to prove themselves because you feel like if you just get a replacement level defenseman in there, that's a lot safer than the ups and downs that you would have associated with a younger player who's still trying to figure out how to play at the NHL level. Whenever I've talked to Flames people, whether it be you, whether it be Mike Gold, always spoke very highly of Valimaki as a prospect. Never really got an opportunity to stick. It happens when you're a good team. Your younger guys, especially defensemen, because you only dress 6, don't really get an opportunity to stick. And teams are more inclined to play people like they played Branson last year, had Zadorov on that third pair, where a lot of teams are reticent to play a young guy on that third pair because they fear they're just going to want to move the puck. They're not going to be as strong. They're not going to be as physically mature, be able to withstand the grinding of a long season. It's just a missed opportunity. You hope the guy has a chance to actually get in the lineup in Arizona and stick at the NHL level.
Yeah, and I think that he will absolutely have more of an opportunity in Arizona. I think that Arizona's, needs as much help as they can get, especially on the back end. So, Valimaki has a chance to truly get experience at an NHL level and grow within an organization. And obviously, best of luck to him. So, on top of this, there's been a lot of backup, a lot of log jams on the back end, and Oliver Shillington is still away from the team back in Sweden. He was a very important part of this team, not only through the playoffs, but in the regular season. Do you think he'll come back at any point soon and make this team?
I mean, they gave him an extension in the offseason, which was a clear-cut sign that they prioritized. They gave him a real extension. 2x5 is a clear-cut, we want you to be here. We want you to play into your next contract when you'll be an unrestricted free agent. He was outstanding last year. After a couple of years of kind of being strung along and not really having a spot, he was really good for them last year. You hope everything's all right. You hope this is just like a paperwork immigration thing, which I know was a problem for a lot of players last year, coming into this season, because both the Canadian and the American governments were able to kind of get a workaround for the typical paperwork process because of the pandemic last year. So you hope this is just a paperwork thing, whereas not an actual like life happening thing, which very well could be. No one knows. They've asked for privacy in this. So hope everything's all right. You want to see him play, but worry about you first. It's always about making sure everything's all right before you worry about hockey.
That's honestly a really good point, because I didn't even think of like the legal side of things. Yeah. My brain just jumps to, oh my God, something's wrong at home. But no, that very well could be a thing because, like you mentioned, paperwork and legal things. But who do you slot in if he's gone for a little bit? Who do
Probably
you?
Stone. Probably
Yeah,
Michael Stone. Yeah, his impacts are fine. His defense isn't great, but he moves the puck with a little bit of upside. His metrics are fine. He's your third pair guy. He plays 12 minutes a night, 12 to 14 minutes a night. It's fine. Michael Stone's a competent third pair NHL defenseman. If that's what you're worried about in your lineup construction, you're in okay shape. If you're worried about who the sixth defenseman on your team is, yeah.
yeah, and I think with Michael Stone, I think that he is one of those guys that Daryl Sutter loves, and he
Yes.
might not say it out loud, but I think between his playoff performance last year and then his camp performance, he was able to score, I think, like 3 or 4 goals between the the postseason and the preseason. So he's finding his game again, which is nice, and it's always nice to see, especially for a player who has gone through it, to say the least. It's nice to see. And then, Connor Mackey is a player who I think will eventually see time with this team. But the thing is again, there are so many defensemen on this team and the organization as a whole. But I think that he's ready to take kind of the spot of Valimaki in terms of being that next guy that's, kind of just flip-flopping between the two leagues. And that's obviously a lot easier now that the Wranglers are in Calgary.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a difficult spot for a younger guy to be that seventh defenseman, because when you're not playing every day, you're not in a good routine. You're not in as good of a routine as you could be, and it's hard to get up to game speed. And it's just a difficult spot for a younger player. Typically, you want that seventh defenseman to be somebody who's old, because they know what it takes to be good at that job, where if they're not playing every day, they know how to go about preparation. I know it's a reason the Rangers have done that thing where they've continued to drag along kind of over the hill guys in that seventh spot. Like, they just waved to Nordy today to get down. Yeah,
wow.
they just waved him today, but that he's going to be the eighth defenseman because they're going to keep Hayek. But yeah, you ideally want an older guy for that spot, but being that the AHL team is closer now, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Oh, Jared Tenorti, former
Yes.
Bruin, former everything, really. But yeah, I think it's, again, one of those situations that it's good to have this question.
Yeah.
And not to be like, well, it could be A, B, C, D, and we're going to actually go with J because J is just, a Daryl Sutter guy. But coming up next, we are going to talk about predictions. I love doing predictions because 9 times out of 10 I'm wrong. But it's okay. It's okay. I'm not a brain surgeon. There's no lives on the line here. All right. Well, when I sent you this outline, I was very, very nervous because I was like, I'm not good with predictions. And you're a very analytical driven guy. So I was like, I'm going to look like a clown. But it's okay. Like I said, it's not brain surgery. No one here is going to use this against us in case we're wrong. So what do you think of the Flames lineup so far, especially that first line with Huberdeau, Lindholm, and Toffoli? Do you think it's strong enough to contend as a top line?
Toolbox wise, yes. You've got a playmaker, you've got a retriever, you've got a shooter. I mean, that Lindholm was the pivot on the best first line in hockey last year. You saw him sniff that 40 goal plateau, which is where you really want your top line guys to be. Huberdeau broke 100 points on Florida last year. Toffoli on a good team can push 25 goals. That's a solid first line. I don't know if it's as dynamic as some of the other first lines we're going to see the Flames are going to run into down the line. It's not going to compare well to Edmonton's. It's not going to compare well to Colorado's, Tampa's, even the Bruins when they're fully healthy. It's an upper echelon first line, but it's not a top 5 first line. It's good. It's not as good as last year's.
Right.
Last year's Flames first line was the best first line in hockey. So it's still going to be good, but I don't know if the Flames are going to go very far this year. It's going to be a depth thing, not our best players are better than your best players.
And that's a good position to be in again.
Yeah.
Again, depth wins. If you
Yes.
don't have your secondary scoring, you're kind of SOL in terms of any playoff run. So
Yeah.
we're going to keep our fingers crossed there. Who is leading this team in scoring this year?
So I wrote down 2 because I wasn't sure if you meant in goals or points. So
Oh,
goals,
yeah.
I would say Lindholm. Points, I would probably say Huberdeau.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I have too, because they're your top line guys.
Yeah.
You need them to perform at that level. They're very competent at performing at that level. We've seen it in the past. And I think that last season, Lindholm was able to take that next step in his career. And again, Daryl Sutter has this ability to kind of teach old dogs new tricks. And I'm interested to see if he's able to teach Huberdeau to implement some defensive mechanics into his game. But yeah, I think that this is going to be another fun first line to watch. I will say right now, I will miss Matthew Tkachuk or Johnny Gaudreau setting up Matthew Tkachuk for the behind the net goals. I will be grieving that probably for the rest of my life, and that's okay because hockey is not that serious. I can't. I miss them so much, and the season hasn't even started.
Yeah.
But like we said, it's good for the league.
Yeah.
Perfect for the league. Who is your breakout player of the year for the Flames?
I mean, I'll say Mangiapane again, just because I really enjoy watching Mangiapane's game. But other than Weegar, I mean, you're going to get to see Weegar play a lot. I think the Flames are going to have. If Chillington comes back, I think they're going to have an argument for being the best 1 through 6 defense in the entire league. I would say either Weegar or Mangiapane. I mean, it's kind of hard because most of the Flames are already established older players in this league, but Mangiapane's still on that second restricted free agent contract, and then Weegar just signed the long-term extension, and he's still on the younger side. So one of those two guys, someone in their mid-20s who's going to get a real chance here on a team that expects to go far. So either Weegar or Mangiapane. Mangiapane was great last year, and when you have a guy like that who's on your second or third line, you have a deep team. And we keep coming back to that, but that's the way the Flames have chosen to address losing high-end talent, is going for depth.
Yeah, and I think not having depth was part of the problem last year. They had it, but it wasn't up to par with where it needed to be. And, I'm going to say Noah Hanifin as well, because he has taken the steps to be, a top pairing defenseman. I think that he, there's just still something missing. And I'm hoping that, with the decor that's there now, they're able to kind of bolster his game. He had, I believe, a career year last year between points and goals. So we'll see. And I always forget that he's only like 25 because he's been in the league for so long. But yeah, and again, Boston native, so I can't root against that.
I like Hanifin's game. That's a good answer. Hanifin is a good answer. Because I just said before, the Flames really going to have a lot of flexibility on that back end, especially once Chillington comes back. Because Tanev and Weegar can play with anybody. They're erasers. They solve a lot of problems. Yes. Hanifin took a nice step last year because in 2020 he wasn't great. Last year he was pretty, I would say, upper echelon of that. Low, probably like 14th, 15th best first pair lefty in the NHL. So you get a little bit better than that. And just the Flames are well situated for him to have a strong season. And they need that because you lose that high-end talent up front. You're going to need more cohesive play throughout your lineup. A lot of the way the Flames style is predicated on having as much depth as possible because it's grueling, it's enduring, and you have to have a lot of guys. Dumping and chasing the puck all night is tiring work. You have to have 4 lines and 6 defensemen that can withstand that kind of style. And it's one of the rare situations where a GM has matched the style they want to play with the talent they have. And it's a good situation, and Hannafin's a good answer. I could definitely see him taking a nice leap, especially in counting stats, which are a little fluky as a defenseman because, point assists, secondary assists doesn't really translate, especially when you're not getting power play time. But you could definitely see it for Hannafin this year. That's a good answer.
Fingers crossed for him. And then the goaltending. I think a lot of people, I don't want to say have questions about it because I think, this is, again, Jacob Markstrom finished second behind your guy, Igor Shesterkin, in Vezina Trophy voting. So does Dan Vladar see more game time? Does he see more starts this year to give Markstrom the rest that he needs in order to not have a repeat of the Edmonton series?
Okay, so I went and looked it up because the way I always approach this, if you're a team that's trying to win a Stanley Cup, is you look at the recent history of the league, you see what teams that have won the Cup have done, especially with goalie workload. And I went and wrote it down. So last year, Kemper, 57 starts, Vasilevsky in the 56-game season, 42, in 2020, 52. Binnington started 32, Jake Allen started 46 when the Blues won, Holtby, 54 starts, Matt Murray, 39 starts. Marc-Andre Fleury, 58. Markstrom had 63 starts last year. That's a little on the high end. You want ideally to be somewhere in the mid-50s for your starting goalie if you're pushing for a Stanley Cup. Even in the years where the Rangers were riding Henrik Lundqvist into the ground, he was only starting 58, 59 starts. So ideally, you want to take away about 5 more of those starts. If you can get 5 more starts out of Vladar and you have Markstrom for 55 to 60, that's your sweet spot. That's where you want to be so your goalie has energy left by the time the playoffs come.
Absolutely. And I think looking at, that number 63, that's nauseating.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. And I get it. It was Vladar's first season in the NHL.
And Markstrom was good. And Markstrom was really good last year. That's the problem a lot of these teams have. I mean, you just ride the hot goalie. I mean, we saw it in Toronto with Jack Campbell, where he was outstanding through about February, and then he got hurt. We saw it with Freddie Anderson in Carolina, who was outstanding until he got hurt. We saw it with UC Saros in Nashville, who was outstanding until he got hurt. These teams that are and the Flames are a good enough team where starting your backup shouldn't sink you. There are teams where if you have to play your backup goalie sometimes, okay, you're kind of giving up that night just because they're not that good. But the Flames have a deep enough team where if they start Vladar, they should be able to hang around in most games.
Absolutely. And I think that what also helps is, I'm going to get so much crap for mentioning this, but Vladar came from the Bruins system, which has a phenomenal goalie pipeline. And that's why he got pushed out, because of all the prospects that were there. And with Tuukka kind of, he was on his last leg, and there wasn't room for him to move up. But he makes a phenomenal backup, and he has had the proper development and training that he needs in order to succeed. And I don't think it's fair for him to just kind of, be a bench warmer all season and wear Markstrom out to the point where he's starting games in April or, March against, the Chicago Blackhawks, who have already been eliminated, and you just don't, there's no reason. Put your backup in.
Yeah, you got to manage the workload. And it sucks when you have a very good goalie, because by playing your backup, you're not giving yourself your best chance to win.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to play the long game if you're a team like Calgary that really does expect to go deep into the playoffs. Winning every game is important until you get that cushion. Once, especially like last year, where the Flames were pretty well situated for the playoffs by about February, you got to start worrying about April, May, and June. And that ultimately was the Flames' undoing. Was they were tired, they were worn out, the goaltending wasn't there, and they got into a track meet against the fastest team in the league. you gotta give yourself a chance. And it's hard. It's very hard for a coach to say, okay, I can't give my team the best chance to win tonight because somebody needs rest. And Markstrom's never going to want to say he doesn't want to play. And Daryl comes in. Yeah, you good? Yeah, that's the end of the conversation. A guy like Markstrom, who's as good as he is going to want to play every single opportunity. And it's one of those situations I always talk about on my podcast is sometimes you need to take the decision out of the player's hands because the player isn't always going to make the best decision for the team because they're not going to want to let the team down because they feel that by not playing, they're letting the team down. We got to start reconditioning the hockey player brain. Sometimes it's okay. Yes. Sometimes it's okay to not try and gut through something.
Right. And I feel like that is very relatable for a lot of us here in this content creating world. Like, it's okay to not be, on 24/7. It is okay to just enjoy a sporting event without thinking this would make great content. This, I have to write this down because I just have all these amazing ideas. No, it's okay. It is perfectly okay to watch a game or even not watch a game. Just to step back and be like, okay, it's a night off. But do you have anything else you would like to add before we wrap up this show today?
I liked the Flames a lot last year. I still think they're going to be an upper echelon team. I think they're like 15, 16-1 to win the Stanley Cup, something in that mid-tier range behind Colorado. They weren't favored to win the Pacific Division, which I was a little surprised to see Edmonton as the betting favorite to win the Pacific, considering they're a two-line team with the goalie who has 150 career NHL starts as their goalie. I think the Flames are going to be right there. Everybody stays healthy. The Flames are one of the 5-6 best teams in the entire league. You get in the playoffs, you hope for the best. That's really all you can ask for. If you have a legitimate chance, worry about everybody's health, get into the playoffs, and then once you get there, then you start worrying about, are we that good? But the Flames are a well-constructed team. Brad might have already won GM of the year, and the season hasn't started yet based on the offseason he had. So I'm very excited to see what the Flames do this year. They're one of my favorite teams to watch. I make a point of watching them because their style of play is very entertaining to watch. So I'm very excited. I'm curious to see, like you mentioned before, if they can get Huberdeau to get out of that track meet habit of style that the Panthers are playing into that more structured, rigid, all right, you have the puck, get the puck, go get the puck like a cat chasing a laser pointer.
Yeah.
What the fuck do. So I'm very curious to see that. And this is a fun team. I'm very, very excited for the Flames this year.
I am so glad you're excited because I think we need more people to appreciate the Flames. And
we do.
I think they're on their way, well on their way at that. So thank you everyone so much for tuning in to today's episode of Locked On Flames. Nick, plug all of your socials, your projects, everything, please.
So you can follow me on Twitter. My personal is at Nick Zararis, Nick Zararis. I'm the co-host of the Liberty Blue podcast with Andrew Chelney. New episodes every Monday. Now that we're in season, we're going to start doing more stuff on not a daily basis, but close to it because there's actually hockey to talk about now. Unlike, it was not the best of ideas to launch a podcast the day after the Rangers were eliminated and there wasn't hockey to actually talk about. But now that there's actually hockey to talk about, the content will uptick. We had Rangers MSG Network broadcaster Sam Rosen on last week. That episode is getting re-aired on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. Friday evening, it'll be available on all your favorite podcasting platforms sometime Monday night. Hockey's back. The content doesn't stop it, Jess. We're back.
We're back. Like this is our time. We are here until the Stanley Cup is handed out. And then we take a day off and then we're back again.
And then we're back.
Thank you so much for joining me, Nick. I greatly appreciate it. And is there an episode on tonight? Are you guys recording tonight?
We're re-airing the episode we did with Sam on Thursday, but we're probably going to do something that comes out tomorrow because the Rangers season starts tomorrow. So we haven't decided if we're going to record an episode and drop it in the morning for tomorrow, or if we're just going to do something live tomorrow night before the game. So when we know, I'll let you know, but yeah.
Yeah, great. Because I watch on Twitch and I'm just like, it's nice to listen to. But thank you, everyone. And thank you, Nick. Make sure you check out him on Twitter, check out his work, and you can follow me online at Jess Belmosto. Follow the show wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. And make sure that you are following the show's Twitter feed, which will absolutely be more active now that it's this regular season, at LO_Flames pod.